to do that, Chuck, or do you want me to do it?
I can do it if you want.
Go ahead, you're the chief.
I can do that.
Okay.
Sir. Okay, good. Thanks. Chuck, okay. We got about a minute to go. I think it's about time. I'll do it in 30 seconds. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the City Council meeting. The agenda for tonight, the City Council, the City of California City joint meeting of the successor agency for the California City Redevelopment Agency and the City Council, Tuesday, January 8th, 2019, starting at 6 p.m. Please, if you have your cell phones, please put them so they're silent. Mayor Pro Tem Eugene Stump will be joining the meeting via conference call. Mr. Stump will be at the following location during the conference call. Blue Green Club 36 at 372 East Tropicana Avenue, Las Vegas, Nevada 89169. This meeting is now called to order. Would everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation? Want the honors tonight?
Oh, please salute the flag and begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please bow your heads. Is it on?
We can hear you.
I can hear you too.
That's what
Now it's on. Only because the folks at home need to hear it. If you bow your heads with me, dear Heavenly Father, we come before you tonight with matters of grave importance to our city, to our country. And Father, we ask that the Holy Spirit would touch each and every heart that is here tonight, and particularly those who are the decision makers. May your wisdom flow to and through them for the glory of your kingdom, in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilmember Johnson. Lisenovich.
Here.
Paris.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Stump. Mayor McGuire.
Here.
Oh, Mayor, I'm sorry, I forgot to adopt the agenda, please.
Oh, okay, I apologize. I'm looking for
No,
a
I
motion, to adopt the agenda, but before we do that, there's one thing I wanted to bring up, dealing with CC1. Let me get to my page. And that is, we are going to be pulling check number 104358. That is pulled and voided. The account has a credit, and that's why it was done. Sir.
In addition to that, would it be possible to, I would like to, concerning the item on CC1 under, I guess it's check number 104, let's see here, I want to make sure I get it, 104244. I'd like to move that to the end of the meeting and also add a closed session item of potential litigation.
Okay, since that's been brought up, do we need to do a roll call on that?
Everything on this meeting.
Okay. So if, let's do a roll call on.
No, you have to have a motion first.
Well, yeah, make the motion. that-
So I'll make that motion.
Well, I fear, okay. Anybody gonna second it? Okay, now we got the motion. And a second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Johnson? Yes. Lisenovich?
Yes.
Paris?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Stump?
Okay, so that was to add that item.
Mayor McGuire?
You still need to adopt the agenda then.
Yeah. And he said yes.
Mayor McGuire?
Yes. Okay, now looking for a motion to adopt the agenda.
Oh, I thought we did that all at once.
No.
I make that motion.
Councilmember Johnson? Yes. Lisenovich?
Yes.
Paris?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Stump? Yes. Mayor McGuire?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, now, everybody has to remember that because this is a conference call, every vote cannot be just yea or nay. Every vote has to be a roll call vote.
Mayor, this is really loud. For council, Mr. Bettenhauser, in regards to check 104244, are we taking that to the very end of this agenda or the end of CC1?
To the end of the agenda, after the closed session.
After the closed session, we come back with it?
Right, it concerns a potential litigation item, so I wanted to provide an opportunity to discuss it with the council and then come out of closed session and approve it in open session. That way, the council is fully informed, because we have new council members, and they would just need
Correct.
minimal information on that item. It concerns an item that was actually finalized by the prior council, but I just need to make sure that the council's informed. That's the purpose.
Thank you.
All right, Madam Clerk, any reports or late communications?
Yes, sir. JM Powers, dated January 1st, City Council should direct City Manager to provide all overdue monthly financial statements. And just to let anybody know that hasn't been on the website lately, they are current except for December. January 3rd, City Council should learn from state audit findings on the city of Bell and Maywood. January 2nd, photo evidence showing violations of Municipal Code 4-2.417 and 4-2.418, and that is in regards to parking commercial vehicles, trailers, or semi-trailers. That's it.
Okay, thank you so very much. Presentations, City Treasurer Keith Middleton. Oh, here he comes.
Good evening, council and our staff and our public. We profited pretty good during November. We brought in better than $2 million that I moved up into our investment account. As of November, the general account with the investment account monies had $570,545. I do want to make mention here that this amount of money came in because this is tax time for the public, for our homes. Between middle of October and the end of February, we'll see monies come in. These are moving every month up into investment accounts as I can. During the latter part of the year, from March through October, these monies are drawn down on as needed. And hopefully this year we won't have to do it as much as we had in past years for various reasons. But so you'll see high numbers now, but later on this year you'll begin to see those numbers go down if we need them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
I have a question.
Go ahead, sir.
As part of the monthly report of investments, I had in front of me an investment policy. The investment policy states that the treasurer shall invest the city's monies as permitted in the city's approved investment policy. The treasurer shall consider current and projected cash needs in making such investments. I'm wondering if we don't have to have additional oversight of the city's investment policy beyond one elected official?
We have oversight. I don't invest any monies without the finance director and the city manager's concurrence and discussions.
And that needs to be put into the investment policy and stated as such.
It's in our,
I'm just reading the investment policy I was given, so that's a public document, and it should say that if you're not responsible 100% for the decisions, and that these decisions are made with the finance director and city manager, then that needs to just be put into that investment policy.
I'll put it
So
on the
it's great.
pages, but it's in our ordinances.
Okay.
So we're covered as a city by ordinance.
Okay, thank you very much.
Before we go on to civic community organizations and stuff, today is kind of special.
Elvis's birthday.
Well, besides that. Can you hear me now? Okay, I'll move a little closer. About 8 years ago, a gentleman became our chief of police, and this is the anniversary. Congratulations, sir.
Not only did he become our chief of police, he's the longest sitting chief of police we've had so far out of 11 chiefs. He's been here longer than any of them, so that's quite an accomplishment for this city.
Looking at this picture, there's a little bit more darker hair.
I made those up to give to him so to remember what he looked like 8 years ago.
So if you want to give that. Okay, civic community organizations and announcements. Are there any civic community organizations or announcements? None there. We will move on to public business from the floor. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons desiring to address the city council on any matter not on this agenda and over which the city council has jurisdiction. Please state your name for the record, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Do you have any public business from the floor? A little bit.
My name is Priscilla Taylor Percival. I want to bring to your attention something that happened, and maybe you've seen it on Facebook. My husband's service dog was attacked by 2 pit bulls at Rite Aid in the Breezeway. And I know that a friend of mine was pinned against her car by a pit bull. And then I've read on Facebook that there's also other people that have had their fences broke down and pit bulls have gained entrance to their yards and hurt their dogs. My concern is we don't have enough people to cover animal control. We don't have enough officers in our police department. And Andrew Roach responded to my husband when he thought he was having a heart attack that day. And then we find out that he's quit and got moved on. You guys need to do something about this. You need to make sure that our officers are getting the amount of money that they deserve. We need more animal control officers. And we need people to know that our fire department is there when we need them. You guys need to take care of that. My husband's dog's vet bill is about $125. Another gal's vet bill is over $1,400 so far. Something needs to be done. Something needs to be done with the vicious dogs. My husband almost had a heart attack. His dog could have been put out of service because of this attack. He's a $62,000 dog from grants to the LA County Prison to be trained for veterans. That dog could have never been able to help my husband again. You guys need to do something about that.
Okay, thank you so much for that information. Mr. Stockwell, sir, could we possibly get something? I don't know what we can do with, because we don't have personnel, but we got to put the heat on people to keep their animals under control. Yes, ma'am.
I have a copy of the video if anybody wants to see it.
Okay, thank you.
Were the dogs taken into custody at all? Do you know?
That particular case, the understand the owner was visiting Cal City, told the officer that they were just there for a couple days. The owner was cited for Muni Code violations, and recently I understand that maybe they weren't telling very truthful of their temporary stay and actually maybe here longer. So we're going to be looking into that. One thing that the city created a year or two ago.
2 years ago.
2 years ago? Okay, is the Vicious Dog Committee. They're going to be calling them on another pit bull matter. And I'm not sure if it's the same case that she's talking about, to determine if these other pit bulls are vicious. So that committee should be convening shortly. So.
This is getting ridiculous. We've had too many people in this community attacked.
And I.
Yes, sir.
You know, we're going after the dogs, that's one thing. Let's go after the owners.
Exactly.
They're dogs, they're the ones that's responsible for their animals. If they can't take care of them, throw their butt in jail. We got a nice one over here, got a chief that knows how to take care of them. So, I mean, I don't care, we got to write a rule, whatever. If that happens, it's got to be stopped. Because there's a lot of good people and good dogs in this town that don't, you know, that stigma don't need to go over to other dogs. But it's the owner.
Last year, the year before, my name's Alona. Are we still doing that? Okay. Last year or the year before, I did some research regarding other cities in our state and other states who have ordinances that state all animals that are not legitimate AKC breeders and have people that are already paid a fee to buy these dogs. All dogs have to be spayed and neutered. We have a full shelter overflowing again. And it's not whether it's a pit bull or a chihuahua. It's that they're letting their dogs breed and breed and breed, and we don't have the money or the proper shelter for them. So I would like you all to consider speaking with our city manager and so forth, and I can give you some data I have regarding laws that say everything will be spayed and neutered, and then we can have somebody go out and say, hi, you know, I'm coming to check on your license. Some of these dogs aren't licensed either. If they end up in the shelter, they don't get them back unless they pay to have them spayed or neutered. But the problem is way too many dogs, and that's the problem of the people. I agree with that gentleman. Thank you.
Before we continue on, Mr. Stockwell, maybe we could put this as an agenda item in a future council meeting, because it's something that needs to be addressed and rapidly, I feel.
Now, Mr. Mayor, at where I live in my block, I've had 6 people in the last 2 weeks come to me with dogs attacking them, and it's just becoming overwhelming that we need to step it up.
So we can't continue this banter on the animals because we're governed by the Brown Act and everything. Yes, sir.
Good evening. Al Hudson. We'll spay and neuter the owners.
The dogs will still breed.
I've just got a couple of items. I had previously addressed the council on allowing and ordering the city manager to permit retired police officers to come back to work and just pay them their regular salary without the benefits and such. And as shorthanded as the police department is, that only makes a good solid sense to do that, because it doesn't make, when we have those guys available, it doesn't make any sense to pay the highway patrol $90 an hour to do something that we can get done for $25 or $30 or $40 an hour, and have police here that are very, very familiar with our community. Just makes sense, and I'd like the council's comment on that. The other item is I've done a lot of research on why there is so much turnover in police and fire departments. The bottom line is not the pay, it's the morale. And we need to do something about the police and fire and other departments' morale. We've had a large turnover of key personnel under the stewardship of Mr. Stockwell. That's really, really questionable as to why the people are leaving under his stewardship. It's not good. And directly related to that, I would like to see an amendment to the city council's agenda and have HR on there, and the HR give the council heads up on the department's staffing and how many people are retained and how many have left and their reasons for leaving, whether it's voluntary or involuntary. And I think that that should be an agenda item for the council to discuss and put on there. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Is there anybody else, and I like that idea, put that with staff report.
Mayor?
Yes,
This,
ma'am.
the staffing document that goes on approximately once a month, I believe, gives all that information. It goes on consent once a month, and it shows the openings and if someone's left.
Okay,
So I can double check with her.
thank you very much. Anybody else for public business from the floor? If not, we're going to go to the consent calendar, and thank you, everybody, for your comments, and I hope the dog's okay now. You remember, I met him, and I'm a dog lover, so sorry to hear that. Okay, so consent calendar. All items on the consent calendar are considered routine and non-controversial and will be approved by one motion if no member of the council, staff, or public wishes to comment or ask questions. Public comments, please limit that to 3 minutes, and a roll call vote is required. We're going with CC1, check registry. Are there any questions on CC1, check registry?
Hi, Christy Munt. I don't know the check numbers, but I was going through it and I noticed that we are paying 5 different communication companies for our internet and telephone services. We have Frontier, we have Charter, we have Verizon, AT&T, and 661 Communications. And amongst those 5, we paid $7,500 for a month. I know we have a lot of cell phones for the police and the fire and everything else, but there should be some way of getting a bundle service for this city to try and save us money from one of those, so we're not paying 5 different companies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Albertson again. Check number 104-185, that is to Best and Krieger for $21,697.87. Is that the full and complete amount that we are being billed for the city's defense and the Vincent versus California City lawsuit?
The treasurer is getting the green copy right now.
I can respond to that.
Okay.
No, that's an active case. It's not resolved yet, so that's just the billing to date in the defense of that particular case.
Okay, now, will this amount go towards the $100,000
Self-insured retention.
self-insured?
Yeah, yes, it would.
The $100,000 deductible.
Correct.
Okay, so actually the defense of the Vincent case can cost the public $100,000. 104-197, that's to Nagel Earthworks for $16,615. Is that for the work being done or that had been done over at Bositis Park?
What number was that?
104-197. You know where I'm going with this.
Randsburg Mojave Rehab.
Okay, it's called.
Pardon?
City has retention, the time frame for the retention is, so this is the plan, retention of the contract.
Okay. 104-334, that's going to price page. Those are the city's auditors. When Finance Director Olafin hired them, they offered financial services to the city, and the finances had been in a mess, and I'd like to know why the city manager has not called Price and Page and got consultation and additional training that they offer. And check number 104337. That's to Full Spectrum, again, for $6,767.68. We understand that they were working on the SCADIA system, okay, fine, but they're, again, are not licensed in the state of California, and yet they're working on the water plan. That's totally illegal. And the last comment is this check register with the $300,000. Oh, we can't forget Jones and Mayer. They're getting $80,544.29. Pretty good payday, as well as Health Engineering. And we'd like to know with Health Engineering what Public Works is doing about getting an in-house engineer like he was asked to do. I have answers on those things. Could you please answer?
They'll probably get back to you with the answers on that later on. Again, the $300,000 is, that is possible litigation, can't be discussed, I'm sorry. It's a personnel issue.
Okay,
and
because
possible
we have
litigation.
a record amount on the check register, a total record amount of $1,026,886.45. That's more than I've seen in 10 years.
The number of days you've had to cover this item? That covers basically
Come on, folks.
2 days.
Okay, the 3 minutes is up. They'll get back to you in reference to your answers for that.
Okay, thank you very
Okay.
much.
Thank you. Are there any questions dealing with check registry?
I have some questions.
Okay, bringing it up.
Okay, again, Health Engineering, back in April 10th of 2018, council had made a directive that Health Engineering was to no longer do any engineering services other than what they were doing for state and federal jobs to complete them. And we were supposed to go outside or approve contract amendment month to month. And yet, we're still paying him to do all kinds of services out of this check register. I know that he said he was going to retire, but from April to now is a long time to allow this man to continue, or this company to continue to operate after council had directed the city manager to stop this and go to another engineer.
So, as you know, we have multiple RFPs, RFQs that have been flown. We received quotes before, right around the Christmas holiday, for state and federal projects, and we were reviewing those proposals that we received. We also received for the on-call services, which is not required to go out to contract, but those would come back to council for us to authorize one of those to be an on-call engineer up to $150,000. Those are strictly state, federal, and/or state projects. The in-house projects that they've worked on, that's what they're still working on. But regardless of, those will all transfer away because the doors are closing the end of this month. Mayor knows that we already are working on morphing or pulling everything out of that we're working on currently under building and planning to another firm. We've worked with 2 or 3 that were approved clear back when we did all the planning, the 3 agencies for planning. So we've used them. We've used an outside firm, and then a hard contract. We received 1 quote for the actual city engineer position. There's 4 different things out there flown for engineering services for the city, along with an in-house city engineer, which we've received nothing on at this point. Actually, 1 that we interviewed about 3 or 4 weeks ago. So we are actively and will be transferring in. At some point, you will not see anything, even the jobs that were approved, because some of those over the next 2 years, those will move to another engineering firm that the council will approve.
So as of last day in January, Held Engineering is done, is that
It's done, the
my
doors are
understanding?
closed. Yes, literally has closed the doors as of that, and we are already transferring work to another engineer.
Thank you. I have one more. This also pertains, Full Spectrum Engineering Company out of Utah. Is he licensed in the state of California? Do
No,
you
he's
know?
not, and for the work that he does, none of it is required to be anything to do with a license. SCADA work, he was approved to do work through the city. He was approved to do a project with the sewer plant. He's been approved to do work within the city system.
So you're saying the water operation plan upgrade does not require a California license to do that?
No. And that's been in conjunction with city staff putting that plan together. There's 2 plans that were required by the state. One was the emergency operations plan and the operations plan, 2 separate plans that the state gave us notice that they wanted the city to produce. One back from 2002, which was a federal mandate, which was the emergency operations plans, which came after 9/11. So that plan is the one that I have now that we're reviewing, that was done all in-house. And then the operations plan, because he had the working knowledge because of all the work that he's done within the SCADA system, is why we're working with him to actually augment the city's information.
Again, I have no problem using him as long as he meets the requirements for the state of
There's
California.
no stamps required for anything that we're doing. If it was, then we would use our in-house engineer.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I'm good.
Dr. Nick?
Good, good.
I'd like to know what happened to Unit 3007. Just because there's so much for it.
An officer was driving it, and a pole jumped out in front of the officer and messed up the side and the front end.
Was that within the city or was it outside the city?
Outside the city.
Was he on duty or off duty?
On duty.
Thank you.
And was there a traffic collision report made?
Yes, the local jurisdiction took report.
Mayor Pro Tem Stump, do you have any questions, sir, in reference to CC 1 or 2?
I sure do. I have a lot. Okay. First of all, starting with check 104187, I'm assured by an email that I got that that will be the last dispensary permit refund. Is that correct?
That is affirmative, and that came from finance.
Okay. Next one is check number 104215. What is that deposit refund for?
It was for an overpayment on the water account,
Almost $2,000?
$1,902.02.
A lot of overpayment. Next one is for $104,232. What type of contracting was that for? Sentinel Contracting.
We'll have to research that and bring back the grade sheet doesn't get enough detail. The company is Sentinel Contracting with Sharon Hamel, but it doesn't mean it was construction. Looks like another refund of an
Okay, and then check number 104238 to Adams Prism Wasteland something. Deposit refund, what is that for?
Councilman Stump, this is Craig. Those usually are large construction meters, and that their last bill would be tallied out of their deposit. There's a $1,000 deposit on those accounts for the hydrant meter. And so what we would do is pull usually their last bill out of their read and then deposit the balance of their refund.
Okay, I saw other construction deposits that were 500, but not for 1,000.
The $500 deposits are for trash. Each time a contractor sets up, and then when they show us their receipts for disposal of trash from their project, and they receive the $500 refund for that. The hydrant meters are a separate fee.
Okay, the next one that I have is for code 3, that is check number 104276. Are these IT services that we're paying them January, February, March, all the way to June, is that for this year or for last year? And if it's for this year, 2019, why are we paying them so much in advance? And if it's for last year, why are we paying them so late?
David Goodell here. I'll have to research it, Gene. It's 4 services performed. We've got Code 3 replaced an antenna for $292.50, and I'm not sure exactly what the federal signal. I believe it was for upgrades, or excuse me, maintenance on the vehicles, just to get them so that we're able to communicate.
But Chief, we're paying $5,200 for January through June, and I'm assuming that's January to June of this year. And normally you don't pay until services are rendered. So why are we paying in advance? Or, as I said, the second part, if we're paying for services rendered in January a year ago, why are we waiting so late to pay for those?
To address that, the invoices that are from Code 3, we're adjusting invoices for the rate that was in place prior to June of last year. And so it's billing for the difference in those. And their invoices to us are dated November of 2018 in one case, so that all of these are related to invoices that they have sent us within the last 6 weeks. So they came, going to be paid now.
Understand, but if there are services from June and February of last year, wasn't that in our accounts payable? Or that should have been in our accounts payable, and we should have known about that. And should have paid it.
Further, give you a detailed report.
I didn't hear you, I'm sorry.
So we'll check into it further and give you a detailed report.
Okay, thank you. Next check is $104,295. That's for Gillum and Sons for the demolition of 271 Desert Breeze. Is that for the only warrant that we had at that time? And so we are waiting for 16 more warrants before we pay them the $500,000 almost that we awarded them?
That is the only project that has been authorized for demolition at this point.
Okay. That's why some of us would have preferred one at a time, but again, we were overruled. Next check is for $104,300, and everybody already talked about that, and that's for health engineering. What I would like to see from the Public Works Director is I would like to know what RFPs are still outstanding involving health engineering. And since they're retiring at this month, if there are any RFPs that we have not signed with them, then we should not consider them for those RFPs. I'd like to know which ones are on call, which ones are in-house that involve them. So anything dealing with health that is already started, I would like to get from the Public Works Director, again, from this date right now, because we're talking about it at the City Council meeting. I would like to know what ones have we awarded to them at this time, this date, and so after this date, we should not be awarding any more to them. And we need to know when they are expected to be completed and how much, the entire cost, labor, parts, everything. And then what firms we are considering to replace health engineering, because as a council, we need to know that so we can do a background investigation of those firms and find out if we're going to get ripped off or not. Next thing you guys said that you already interviewed a city engineer, and as I've brought up several times, I would like to see a civil engineer with a PE behind their name as a city engineer. Otherwise, we're wasting our time. We have and I'll bring it up later in the meeting, but we have a finance department with no CPA. And that's why we have to pay for outside help to come in and do the work that in-house would do. So if we had a civil engineer sitting in our city, we wouldn't be paying almost $61,000 to health engineering like we're paying now. Okay, next check is for $104,302, and it's for a windshield, I guess, on a we were charged $444.95. I went and researched that myself, and those, to get that and get it installed, I saw on average around $240. And so we're paying almost double that. Did we go and get 3 bids? Was Highway Glass Company the cheapest of the 3 that we got, or did we just go to one person and pay them whatever they wanted to charge us?
Councilman Stump, David Doyle, we went with 2 bids, and my dad will go with 3 next time. Out of the 2, that was the cheapest to get her done in a timely manner, and it was my windshield and try to dodge those rocks.
Did you try Safe Light?
Try Safe Light?
No.
Okay, they are usually about the cheapest, so next time you might want to consider them as one of the ones that you go for.
Okay.
I'm just trying to be a good steward of the city's money.
No, I'm with you, and I'll just put it in my mental file. Thanks.
Councilman Stump, this is Councilman Johnson. I just want to let you know that sort of in his defense, my windshield was hit by a rock just this past week, and it's starting to break off in several places. And the estimates, I have a Honda CRV. The estimates I'm getting for replacement on that are around the $300 mark. So.
Yes, but it's a lot cheaper than $444.95. What I'm saying is, Councilman Johnson, is that we can do much better than $444.95. Next check is 104,316. What is that claim for? I don't understand, and it's $5,000, almost $200.
It's a claim of Flores versus the City of California City, and is just the ongoing process of that working its way through the various stages of litigation.
Okay, so it's for
Detailed
litigation.
The items that are billed for, the time of the attorneys who have made calls, motions to the court, etc. So these are for the period from September 4th of 2018 through December 28th, 2018. And were billed to us on October 10th.
Okay. Next check is for 104,351. $18,699.50 for drinking water. Is that for them to do the inspection, or what is that for?
State Water Resources Control Board bills us from September.
For being the water operator.
Yeah, so it's the bill for the period of July 1st, 2018 to June 30th, 2019, as that's the annual bill for those connections.
Okay. Then there is another, it's a check, U.S. Bank check. The number is says PW91, it's on page 4, the paid invoice report. It's PW9128112618. And we bought chairs for a lot of departments, and we spent an awful lot of money on chairs. I mean, are people's chairs no good now, or what?
I'm having trouble finding that check. It's on page 4, you say?
Page 4 of the paid invoice report, U.S. Bank check detail report. Over $2,000 on chairs for various departments.
Councilman Stump, most of those were made through Public Works. Some are the lobby chairs, the 6 lobby chairs that were replaced, the cloth ones that were stained. The mayor's chair, the chair in and yes, we stopped buying lots of things. So a lot of chairs have broke, and replaced some in the planning, which we've added, and numerous ones within the finance department.
And I didn't see on the check register or anything, but I heard, well, I saw that the mayor has new furniture, and I've heard that the city manager has new furniture, and I thought that the mayor's furniture previous was okay, and the city manager. And if we're trying to be good stewards of the public's money, why were those purchases necessary, and how much were those purchases? Because I didn't see them in the check registry in CC1.
Just as a comment, the mayor's furniture was replaced, and yes, it was extremely old. It's been in there for many years. And the city manager's furniture was actually from the finance department and was moved in there out of that department, and the matching furniture was moved back out of the manager's office back into finance.
So how much did those 2 offices cost, Mr. Platt, since you're aware of everything?
Well, the city manager's office, that was an existing desk from finance. It's been there as long as I've been here.
So you're telling me that no money was spent on the city manager's office?
I believe
other
there's
than
a
chair?
table.
I got a table, a small conference table for $250, and replaced the chair, which was no longer serviceable, for another $200. But the desk was simply moving it from one place in City Hall to another.
Okay. And in the mayor's office?
The desk that was old was replaced. There was a filing cabinet that was probably in the era of World War II or just thereafter. There were 3 broken chairs. There was a computer in there that had XP on it, and there was a phone. The furniture that was bought was a desk with a return, a hutch, and a bookcase, and a chair, and 2 locking sets of desk drawers with the ability to be locked. The total amount was approximately $1,500.
Okay. And I'm not getting on you, Mayor and City Manager. It's just that people, my constituents, ask me questions and they hear things, and so that's why I'm bringing that up. And I didn't see it on the check register or anything, so I'm just answering to my constituents, that's all.
And, well, everybody that's seen the office compared to what it
Oh,
looked
it's
like.
beautiful. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Put your best foot forward.
So that's all for me. I'll just be waiting on the answers to the several things that they weren't able to get to me, but that's all. Thank you, Mayor.
To answer the one question about the city engineer, as I stated just a little bit before that, is the city engineer is retired and gone at the end of this month. So any current project will have to be transferred to another firm. There will be no other work from Helt. He is absolutely retired at the end of the month. So it all has to be transferred And yes, there are state projects and federal projects that are in progress. It won't matter. They will have to be picked up by another firm.
Understand.
Okay, with that, and nobody had questions on CC2, we're looking for.
I do have.
Oh, okay.
On CC2, I have contacted the last 3 city clerks. And every one of them have stated to me that their number one priority was to see that the minutes were turned in. For example, this meeting, the minutes will be turned in 2 weeks to the next council meeting. I realize that the city clerk is just overwhelmed with everything, but I would rather see the up-to-date minutes than the July 24th minutes. And so what I'd like to do is just make a motion to the council that we direct the city manager to see to it that we receive our minutes every 2 weeks. And the back minutes come as they come, but we need to do our due diligence. We need our updated minutes.
Just one note to help that is part of the software package that was approved by council. We're going through the training and setup of all that software right now. So when that's complete, they'll almost be completed within the council meeting, and they'll be verbatim. And we're going through that setup and software right now.
Do we have a time factor?
The server was installed a couple weeks ago. They've been uploading the software. We have considerable amount of staff training. We're setting up the programming right now. The hope and goal was that within 2 months we have it actually functional and operational. We'll be going through some trial because it also is going to incorporate also with the council, the agendas, and how they're viewed. But the goal, I hope, is sometime, we're 1st of January, hopefully by the end of February, March, that we're actually online. Planning, it will be included. Eventually, we will change every sanctioned meeting to actually run through this program.
So if the clerk is currently working on minutes back in July, August, if we can just have the city manager direct her to work on the current minutes to be available for the council until the software is set up, is all I'm looking for.
Mayor, I can do that without being directed.
Okay, ma'am. Any other questions? If not, looking for a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I would make the motion to approve the consent calendar, taking out check number 104232, that's Sentinel Consulting, and 104276, that's code 3, subject to getting a report on what those items are.
Okay, is there a second on that?
We also need 242 to be
So
300,000.
it's already been moved.
That's
Yeah,
already-
we did that in the,
Correct,
we
okay.
did- that was the very first thing we did.
Okay.
I second that.
Okay, we have a first and second. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
Listenovich.
Yes.
Paris.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Stump.
Yes.
Mayor McGuire.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
What can we do to speed up this process? This has kind of been meandering here. Mr. Manager, as well to you, if we as council members want to ask questions specifically to individual items, who should we be talking to? And then afterwards, would it be appropriate for staff, as part of a report on the consent calendar, to just say these were the concerns from the council on these items, so that we don't have to go through a give and take here, just make it a matter of take, you know?
What I have done in the past,
Mhm.
anytime I had questions, I would write them down and I would email them in, and usually 1 to 2 days before council meeting, I got my answers.
We're not getting our agendas till the end of business on Thursday, so that's not gonna exactly work. But I'm suggesting that if we can, tell me who we should be talking to. That's a question I have.
In fact, up until recently, we have received comments directly to my office and have been able.
Is that what you'd like to do?
Recently, we've been doing it more in the meeting rather than the council giving us their questions beforehand. Anytime that we're given an opportunity to answer the questions beforehand, we get it done before the council meeting.
Can you, if we do that, can you also then make that give an update to the public so they're hearing what the council brought to you and just give a brief explanation rather than, I think it would speed things up. That's all I'm looking at doing here.
We would have to amend the agenda to add that item to the agenda.
Which?
Report back to you, because if we send you the check register, you ask us questions, you want us to write down the answers that we give to you, and then distribute that to the council at the council meeting, that means we're adding something to the list.
No, I think you can give the report at the meeting after the item comes up and says the routine and non-controversial items. Does anyone on the council or the public have a question about those items? If a council member calls you up and asks or sends you an email and you have a response, you could make that a public response here, which would be the equivalent of what we just went through for 20 minutes. And maybe that would save a little bit of time. I'm just trying to, I just think that whether we're going to spend 5 minutes talking about a $450 windshield as opposed to a $200 windshield, I don't think that's exactly the debate. I mean, this isn't even a debate. It's just like filling time. But if we're going to have a debate on these items, it's not going to be about safe light or highway glass.
Well, that brings up a good point. And that's how productive is this process at all? Because each one of these items that we have talked about, the city is already contractually obligated to pay them. It doesn't matter that the council would disagree.
Oh, don't say that. That's offensive.
Well, no.
You don't have to have my approval to make those payments?
That's correct. Because we have the council.
Them's fighting words.
Well, let me finish. The council, by adopting the check register, has had an opportunity to comment on those. If we start the process where we first come to the council that says, okay, we had a windshield break on a police car, we contacted 3 vendors, we've decided this is the one that we need to do, may we proceed to get the windshield fixed? I think that's the reality that we're talking about, is that the function of this city and every other city, the review of the check registers are always after the fact, after the obligation has occurred. And so when we have these discussions, it points to something we should do in the future, but it doesn't change what we already have to do unless we go to a process where the council approves every expenditure before the city makes the expenditure. There's really no other option, because once we go out and we have a windshield replaced on a car, we have to pay the bill. Otherwise, we're going to go to small claims court and we're going to pay the bill plus whatever it costs us to go to small claims court. Because once we incur the expense, it has to be paid. And that's the fallacy of this whole issue. Reviewing the check register does not give the council oversight on spending. The council's oversight on spending is the budget. The council says, okay, we think.
I disagree with that.
Well, the
We're out
budget
of.
is the council's financial policy annually. It says, for example, in the police department, we can spend X amount of dollars on operating expenses within the police department. This amount on personnel, this amount on capital. That's what it says. The projects, the expenses that require council approval are contracting for specific projects that then come to the council for approval before those are awarded. But the purchasing of routine operating expenses, if we had to come to the council for that, we'd have cars parked because we couldn't get them fixed until the council approved it. We would, you know, not order,
I hear
we
what
wouldn't
you're
have
saying,
paper to run our copiers. We'd have to go through this whole process of waiting until council saw each of these hundreds of different expenditures and decided which ones they felt they wanted to approve.
Can we think about it in a slightly different way then? Can we think of, one, this is in the departmental budgets, and that there's a threshold, that if it exceeds a certain threshold, that we would then have that ability to make those decisions, if it's not in the budget?
Well, it depends on how unresponsive you want to be. Because for us to have to come back to the council for anything other than the current, like if we're going to purchase a vehicle, that requires council approval. We go out to the bid, we bring it back, the council approves it, we make the purchase.
But us as council
don't make any
members,
expenses that are in the budget.
if we see that the money is not spent and obligated as we believe it should be, and we are elected by the people to do that, we can set a limit on what the city manager can spend. And, you know, to say that it might take forever, no, we can do a council vote really quick. But what I'm saying is you have to spend the money the way that we think it should be spent. Now, you get a budget and everything, but you can't just go and say, I received $1 million for this, so I can spend it the way I want. No. If we feel that you are spending money and not doing it the way that our constituents asked us to be overseers of this and provide oversight, then we might have to put forth rules on how you spend. And if we say that you are limited to $1,500, and we vote on it and have a majority vote, then that's what it'll be.
If I can make a suggestion.
I agree with that totally, and we have a purchasing policy. So my suggestion would be that we schedule a review of our purchasing policy to bring it to the
Okay.
council.
Yes.
Very good.
But to see if the council wants to modify that.
That would be
That's
good.
where, right now, we are operating under the terms of the city's current
Yes.
purchasing policies, and that's why these expenses are being incurred. They're budgeted, they're in the, so we're not spending money that isn't budgeted. We are spending the money from within the departments that were budgeted for these general categories.
Okay, so let's,
Do you think you could see the value of each council member approaching you for items in the check register, whether it be you or, and then bringing it to this meeting before or discussion, before the public is allowed to ask questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
We do it
That-
now.
I think, well, no, it didn't happen. I mean, that,
Well, we do it now. If you had sent us an email or called on the phone and said, I would like the information on the following checks, it would have been available yesterday. And that's what I'm saying, and that's what we've done. In
Okay.
every case that when the council has contacted that, after
for
they
you.
have seen the check register, we have had the answers to them on Monday before the council meeting on Tuesday.
okay.
all right, let's get on to public hearing, number 1. Pardon? We already did. Okay, public hearing number 1, approve a zone change 18-07, parentheses, ZC 1807, and general plan amendment 1807, GPA 1807, for 4 approximately 1 acre parcels, APN 299-261-11 through 14 in California City. The property is located south of Mindenboro Road and west of Norelia Road, T32S R37E, a portion of the northeast one quarter of section 22 MDBM. The project qualifies for a categorical exemption per SEQA to rezone the property from ORA, open space residential or agriculture, to M1 light industrial, and amend the general plan from open space to light industrial to accommodate cannabis industries growth, National Investment Group, LLC, Public Works Director Platt, sir.
And Mayor and Council, I'm going to turn this over to our planner, Sean Monk, to do his reports.
I think that reading just summed it up pretty well.
Did you open the hearing?
Oh, no, I did not open the hearing. Hang on for 1 second. Let me get to that. The public hearing is now open. Staff reports.
Get that gavel, use it.
Okay.
So that reading covered everything pretty well. The Planning Commission and staff recommends that the City Council approve this first reading.
Speak up a little bit on there.
Okay. The Planning Commission and staff recommend that City Council approve the first reading to adopt Zone Change 18-07 and approve resolution approving the General Plan Amendment 18-07.
Okay, any questions from the council? No questions. City Clerk, reports of any communications with this?
No, sir.
Thank you. Okay, we're now calling for public testimony. Does anybody want to come up and speak about this?
Hello again, Christy Munt. I don't know anybody that owns this property or who it affects. I just know that it affects our city, and this is property that's been sitting there for 60 years and nothing's been done with it. So I say we approve it and go forward. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Good evening, Mayor McGuire, Council. Real brief on this zone change, heard by the Planning Commission and approved. Just a couple of brief comments. With respect to this particular site, it's contiguous to other properties that are light industrial. There are active projects in planning in the vicinity. It's consistent. It's not hodgepodge planning in any way. And this is what economic expansion looks like. And so we encourage you to approve this. Thank you.
Anybody else? Looking for a motion to close public hearing.
Make that motion.
Looking for a second.
I'll second.
Madam Clerk, do we have to roll call this one?
Yes.
Okay.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Lisenovich?
Yes.
Paris?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Stump?
Yes.
Mayor McGuire?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Council discussion. Does anybody have any statements they want to make in reference to this? Hearing none, then we are looking for a motion and a vote on this. So does anybody want to make a motion?
Are we adopting the ordinance and the resolution at this time?
What we'll do is, do we want to break it down into two for this?
Yes, let's break it into two. Do the resolution first.
Okay. The resolution will be the first thing. Adopt a resolution number 10-19-2768 of the City Council of the City of California City, amending the general plan designation of 4 contiguous, approximately 1 acre parcels zoned ORA, open space residential, agricultural, located at the south of Mendenboro Road and west of Norelia Road, Section 22, Township 32, Range 37, APN 2992611 through 14 to M1 Light Industrial and Research.
Motion.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Lisenovich?
Yes.
Paris?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Stump?
Yes.
Mayor McGuire?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Second motion, ordinance, this is to waive, let me start over. Council discuss, take public testimony, and give first reading by title only for further reading waived of ordinance number 19772 of the City Council of the City of California City rezoning for approximately 1 acre parcels, zone ORA, open space residential agriculture, located south of Mendenboro and west of Nerelia, section 22, township 32, range 37, and APN 299-261-11 through 14 to light industrial and research. Zone change number 1807 for Growth National Investment Group, LLC.
Motion.
Second. Got a first and a second. Madam Clerk, please.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Lisenovich?
Yes.
Paris?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Stump?
Yes.
Mayor McGuire?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, public hearing number 2. Approval of zone change 1809, ZC 1809, and general plan amendment 1809, GPA 1809, for 2 approximately 19,000 square foot parcels, APN 216-150-03 and 04. In California City, the property is located on Lay Place, west of Van Buren Way, T32S, R37E, a portion of the northeast 1/4 of the southwest 1/4 of the northeast 1/4 of section 16 MDBM. The project qualifies for categorical exemption of first CEQA in order to rezone the property from C2 community commercial to M1 light industrial and amend the general plan from C2 commercial to M1 light industrial to accommodate cannabis industries. Public Works.
No, declare the public hearing
Yeah, I'm
open.
going to in a second. Public Works Director Platt. This meeting or this hearing is now open to the public, or is now open. Staff report. Mr. Platt.
Mayor and council, again, this follows suits with other projects. Anybody that knows the airport, there's a little small section in front that is all commercial that really doesn't have anything in there. And just as a note, anything allowed in a M1, all the Cs can be done in that, so they lose nothing by doing this. And this will open that those little lots open up for the same thing that we are promoting all the way around the airport. So I'll turn this over to Mr.
Mayor and council, the planning commission and staff recommends that the city council approves on the first reading to adopt zone change 18-09 and approve resolution 18-09.
Okay, if everybody could turn up here on the council, could turn your mics off until you're talking. We're just getting some sort of feedback from what people are reporting. Okay, are there any council questions? No council questions? City Clerk, any reports or any communications?
No, sir.
Thank you. This is now a call for public testimony. Is there anybody from the public that wishes to address this item?
It's me again, Christy Mutt, and pretty much ditto. We need to move this thing forward. We've been 2.5 years, and these people want to come in and bring business to our town. I say we approve it. Thank you.
Good evening, again, Al Hudson. Just a quick question on these changes in the zoning and changes in the title and such. What we have looked at in the county records is the non-payment of property taxes, water standby fees, and all of those things. Is there a way to put a condition on any of these changes that those types of fees be paid because everybody else pays them?
I don't know about city attorney or anybody from staff.
Well, a lot of these have sold, and before they can move forward, they actually have paid a lot of that. So a lot of the revenue that we received is funds that were past due as far as the taxes were paid. So we've received, especially in the water standby, which would also relate into property taxes, a considerable amount of revenue that we would have not historically received because of some of these transactions that are moving forward, because they've all had to be current.
Okay, because the tax assessor has said that they're running 6 months or better behind, and they don't have anything in their records to show the transfers and all of those things.
Yeah, now that's may bring up a point, and I'm not sure if that's where he's going with this. We were asked when we do a zone change of notifying the county. There is no notification of the county because they don't look at it until the property is developed, and then they assess the property when it's developed, and they make those corrections at that point.
So there's no taxation on undeveloped properties?
They're taxed at the original rate they're at, whether they're O/RA or commercial.
Okay, because we're talking about the payment of the current owners.
Yeah, a lot of these have sold, and then those taxes are all been made current. That's why we've received a lot of revenue that we had not previously received.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening again, DJ Tuig. Just a brief feedback on the payment of property taxes. The Revenue and Tax Code is a very complex code. There's lots of limits and obligations of property owners, so I don't think this is the place to debate the payment of property taxes. But with respect to the zone change tonight and the General Plan Amendment 1809, I've brought a lot of testimony over the past couple of years, particularly in the Planning Department, about effective land use plans, economic expansion opportunities as a result of zone change, which in fact attract someone to utilize these sites in California City that are otherwise unutilized. This particular site, as you consider this, I'd love you to know it's a narrow lot and be aware of that. It's in an area that is surrounded by very tiny lots. I call them tight lots because they don't have a lot of road frontage. This is an ill-conceived track, in my view, because there are so many lots that are so narrow, zone commercial. I believe it does limit the usability of these properties. However, you do have side-by-side, it appears, or a little bit larger than the normal in that particular track. Some would say this is spot zoning. I just want you to be aware of what you're approving. I'm not opposed to this. I just want you to be aware this is approving a spot zone. It is contiguous to the north with light industrial. There is other light industrial that's being considered around the area. It's possible that this could be a tract for what's called a boutique cannabis cultivation facility. That could be one potential, but just be aware what you are approving here. It's not consistent with some of the larger properties that have been proposed to your city council over the past couple of years. Thank you for your time.
Just as a note, why this was brought by an owner of property that was purchased that was not within a area that is currently served with water utilities. They owned this property. They're looking at a distribution, and it's not large enough for a group, but for the distribution, that's why it made a lot of sense to move forward with it.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment or testimony on this? If not, looking for a motion to close public hearing.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Johnson? Lisenovich?
Yes.
Paris?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Stump?
Yes.
Mayor McGuire.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, any council discussion?
Thank you, council.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question, and that is, how many more proposed zone changes are we going to be getting in the next 6 months?
53. Ballpark. Uh-oh.
While they're calculating, maybe I can give you an update on what we plan to be bringing to the council first through the planning commission, and that's as we look at these large tracts of land around the airport along Cal City Boulevard headed out to Highway 14 that are currently zoned as ORA. We yet have literally hundreds, if not thousands, of lots individually owned in those areas. To do a single general plan amendment that would change the general plan designation for many of these areas away from the ORA, or even single-family residential in areas where it's obvious there isn't going to be single-family development, so that we can focus our efforts toward rezoning than not general plan amendments. We will probably bring many more rezones to the council, but we are restricted by law how often we can amend the general plan. And so we're looking toward bringing forward, hopefully by the end of the first quarter, a proposal to make a major change in the general plan that would focus the direction toward where services exist and where we would like to see the pattern of development go. That would then let everyone know what's planned for these areas rather than having them sit in this really nebulous ORA designation. So that we wouldn't be doing these general plan amendments more than the state law allows.
Just to add to that, Planning Commission did give direction to staff to explore this, and we're currently developing that plan right now.
Thank you. Does that answer your question, sir? No.
Sure. How many are we getting?
Currently, right now, there's 3 in review.
3 in review.
Okay.
All right. We're going to be doing 2 motions on this one. The first motion is going to be the resolution. Resolution number 01-19-2769 of the City Council of the City of California City amending the general plan designation of 2 contiguous 9,000 square foot parcels from C2 to M1. The property is located on Lay Place, west of Bonbon Way, APN 216-150-03 and 04 in California City. That is the motion.
And I make that motion.
I'll second.
We've got a first and a second. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Listenovich?
Yes.
Paris?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Stump?
Yes.
Mayor McGuire?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Second motion that the council discuss and make public test and take public testimony and give first reading by title only with further reading waived of ordinance number 19-773 of the City Council of the City of California City, rezoning to contiguous 9,000 square foot parcels from C2 to M1. The property is located on Lay Place, west of Bonbon Way, APN 216-150-03 and 04 in California City. Zone change number 18-07 for Samuel Theodore on behalf of Emil, and I can't even pronounce these names. Living Trust. It's the second name is I guess it's LLHAM. Revocable Living Trust Business. 7 Leaves LLC associated with owner. That's the motion.
Make that motion.
Second.
Got a first and a second, Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Listenovich?
Yes.
Paris?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Stump?
Yes.
Mayor McGuire?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Continued business, number 1, ordinance number 19771, City Manager Stockwell.
Mayor and council members, at the prior council meeting, the city council approved this ordinance on first reading. So this is the second reading and recommending adoption of the ordinance on second reading. This is the amendment to the ordinance that increases the number of delivery-only dispensaries from 2 to 10. And the necessary changes to the ordinance to make that occur. As directed by council in that meeting, we've begun the process of soliciting applications. I gave council a copy of the notice that we're using. And so that process will begin this week and would conclude on March 8th, when we would then review the applications, rank them, and bring it back to the council in public hearing for the possible awarding of those dispensary permits. Any questions?
These dispensaries are all going to be subject to conditional use permits?
Yes.
Okay. My initial concerns about the whole industry coming to California City was that the city would have or has a poor track record in enforcing its ordinances, and should these businesses come and not make their proper tax payments and give us the revenue that we're expecting, that we would have a difficult time closing them down or enforcing our rules. With the inclusion of these mobile dispensaries and the fact that they have to be in M1 zoning, I came to a secondary question that I did not think about at the last meeting, and that is, if a mobile dispensary with a permit is housed inside a grow facility, how does the city enforce or prevent the grow facility from bypassing the legal requirements and funneling their product into the dispensary? How is that process going to be managed?
Okay, there are two things involved in that. One, everything that goes on
Mr. Stockwell?
for the
Sir?
cannabis.
I don't mean to interrupt you. Could you move a little bit closer to the mic? People were saying they can't hear you. Sorry.
Yeah, well, we've got to get some new mics.
Sure.
Mine's pretty loud.
Yeah, two things are come to bear. One is the city ordinances that require each of the transactions involved in the cannabis business be conducted separately, as well as the state licensing, which requires the same thing. So under both state regulations and city regulations, you go from a nursery, you buy your seedlings, a distributor has to bring those to your operation, and that's receipted and tracked. You put them into your facility, you go through the cultivation. When you finish the cultivation process, everything has to be tracked by the numbers on each of the plants, put together, and then distributed through a licensed distributor who picks up the plants, takes them to the manufacturer. Before a retailer can take items to retail to actually sell the products, it has to go from a manufacturing facility to a distributor to a retailer. And a record is kept in each of those transactions. So both the state will be auditing those transactions as well as the city. And so if we license business A to, on their property, have a cultivation, manufacturing, and dispensary, all three of those activities have to be physically separated and records kept as they move through that process. For a person to retail the cannabis product, the state has in place what's called a track and trace system. Is that you've got to be able to track that substance that's in that package back to the nursery who initiated the propagation of the plant. And so that system tracks all the way through. A dispensary who does not have those records, or a cultivation facility doesn't have those records, will be shut down by the state or by us or both. And so as these businesses get into operation and they work through the initial glitches, then we will be checking back at least quarterly, because that's how often they have to pay their taxes. And they have to show us all of their receipts, which have to comply with the way the state requires them to keep their books. And so it's a very complex process, and one that, while it will be complex, it's relatively simple to find someone who is not following the rules, and then their process all comes to a screeching halt. Because if we notify the state that we have someone who is not operating under the terms of their license, the state will immediately pull the license. And so they will be stuck with product that they can't deal with until it's been, whatever the issue was, is resolved. And so it is a very well-regulated business. We, as we see more businesses come online, will probably be looking for, as has been known from the very beginning, adding staff when it is necessary, when we have more than a handful of businesses, to be able to go out and do the auditing, the tax collection, and that ongoing monitoring of the system.
The ordinance has an annual permit, 5-6502, talks about each permit expiring every 12 months, and it also has a section 503, which says that any permit can be revoked for a violation of any of the rules, which would include not paying your taxes or not staying in compliance with all the track and trace and other requirements. So as long as we're, not only us, but the state is examining these businesses and they're not complying with something, we will have the power to revoke a license. So it's in the ordinance, and we should be able to control that.
Mr. Stockwell, in regards to the storefront dispensaries, are we requiring them to be on M1 property, or can they be on C property with a conditional use permit?
And the ordinance allows for dispensaries in an M zone, but in a commercial zone, they will require a conditional use permit.
So are we going, what I'm seeing is we would be better served to put them, or not put them just in a C zone, but allow the C zone with a conditional use permit along with the M1 zone, and get these people rolling.
Well, that's what's currently in place.
So we can put them in a C with a conditional use permit?
That's correct.
Thank you.
To allay the concerns, look at Oregon, Washington, Colorado, and Alaska. We can look up in the Bay Area. People that have storefront dispensaries as well as delivery services, they are happy to pay their taxes because this is a very, very lucrative business, and they do not want to jeopardize it. So the overregulation really isn't necessary. Thank you.
Hello, Mariah Dotson. Happy New Year. I was just curious to know, has there been any progress made for the actual scoring sheet of how the dispensary is going to be scored, especially specifically when it comes to the community benefits?
I think as discussed, we were going to use the same process as we did in the original reviews.
The scoring structure will be part of the package. Anyone who wants to file an application will get a package that will give them all of that information.
And that package is going to be available March 8th?
Assuming that this is introduced on second reading.
And has the council thought about any additional points being awarded to veterans?
That is included there is an item that points would be awarded for a locally owned business, a veterans or women's owned business.
Roger that. Thank you.
Roger. Uh-oh. Sounds military.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir?
Yes, my constituents have asked me about that also. They've asked if there could be like 5 points for veterans, and I've gotten it from quite a few people.
That's already, I don't know if you heard Mr. Stockwell, he said yes, those were going to be added in.
Okay, good, thank you.
Uh-huh. Yes, ma'am.
Jeannie O'Laughlin, California City. I just want to kind of reiterate what City Manager Stockwell said. The state track and trace program requires every seed to have a number, and it's tracked all the way. Now, is there a way to circumvent that? Absolutely. Nothing is perfect. I think what will be really critical is going forward as the city moves to hire a cannabis director and the cannabis staff. Someone who knows the industry can go out and look at a facility and kind of guesstimate what they think that facility is going to produce based on what they have. So if you look at that and say, okay, you know, I think it should be this, and they come in really low, that would be something that you could then check on. So I think it'll be really important to make sure that you hire really qualified people that understand the industry. Also, I think it was pointed out that every year they have to renew. So if there's anything, even as we were doing the interview process last year, one of the things we talked about is the community benefit program, and that if people didn't do the community benefit, you know, that they had talked about, that would be something that we could raise with them, because I think it actually says they have to have a meeting with the city manager once a year or something like that. So that would be another reason to say, hey, look, you haven't done what you said. You're not supporting the community like you said you would. You need to do this, or your license could be in jeopardy. And so I just wanted to also, I thought you said it would close March 8th. It will open March 8th, is that correct?
Closes March 8th.
It opens tomorrow then, did you say?
Yes.
And there will be a packet available for applicants?
Yes, the package should be available by the end of this week.
Okay, thank you.
Well, this is just a second reading. What, approve a second reading?
Correct, yes.
Okay. Huh?
It's second reading to adopt the ordinance.
For the record, normally we put the first reading on the regular agenda, and the second reading will go on the consent calendar. So it just is part of that.
Oh, okay, all right.
In this case, however, we just thought because of what the subject matter, it was put on the regular agenda.
Okay.
Giving
Motion.
Well, I got to read it first.
Oh,
Well, but-
okay.
I'll run with it. I don't care. Give second reading by title only, with further reading waived, and adopt ordinance number 19771 of the City Council of the City of California City, amending section 5-6.401, Article 4. Number and type of authorized cannabis dispensaries permitted, Chapter 6, regulation of cannabis related businesses and activity, Title 5 of the City of California City Municipal Code. We have a motion. Looking for a second.
Second.
Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Lisenovich?
Yes.
Paris?
You know, we promised the citizens of California City one dispensary. We're now at 14 and unlimited. My vote is no.
Mayor Pro Tem Stump?
One thing that I asked for, I am for this in a way, but we had asked last meeting that the city would move forward and get their act together as far as having all the paperwork and everything else. Now, when I go to City Hall and I ask for to see a dispensary application, there's none. When I ask to see procedures for going through the process, there's none. So I would like to vote for this, but it'll probably pass because the mayor will probably vote on it. But what I would like to see is all the paperwork that we were promised by the city to have in place by this time, because it's 30 days from our last meeting, and it's still not in place. So because it's not in place, I'm for it, but because we haven't done our due diligence in setting this up right now, I'm going to vote no.
Just for information, it's actually on the city's website, the information and the procedures that the council passed. It's loaded on the web under cannabis and is in the building department.
Well, I went to the building department last week, and everything is not updated. It's from the previous stuff, and it's not updated, and we asked. You've had 30 days to update it and make it correct, and it's not updated.
Mayor, if I could address that.
Yes, sir.
Until the council takes its action tonight, there is nothing to distribute. The forms are being prepared, as indicated, we'll have the packet ready by the end of the week. All of the elements that the council said they wanted to see are built into that. What's currently on the site is the older regulations. The things that are specific to the dispensaries are where the changes are. The older regulations that deal with permits for everything other than dispensaries have had minor changes to those. The significant one is the dispensaries, and we're working through that final process of getting those ready so that as people apply, we have sent notice out to all of the current permittees or people who have applied to the city previous for permits, and we'll be publishing it in the paper and start accepting the applications. And so by the end of the week, all of the forms will be in place. But I understand that they're not here tonight, and we can't present it to you.
Mayor, both I sent both ads to two different newspapers, so those have already gone out.
Stuff that's not here is no.
Mayor McGuire.
I didn't hear all of what you stated prior.
I have sent out the end of last week for publishing in two separate newspapers, so that is completed.
Thank you. And my vote's yes.
Motion carried.
Okay. New business 1, hiring freeze. Councilman Sinovich.
Okay. It is my understanding that the current budget projects a $700,000 surplus. And kind of made an assumption in previous years when I sat on the council that in departments where there isn't a lot of material use, a department like the water department has to buy a lot of supplies to be able to do their job, vehicles and things of that nature. But where that does not apply, that 60 to 70% of the budget is wages and benefits for those departments. So I would look at finance and say that the cost in the finance department is primarily employees. In our current budget, we have 9 new positions proposed in the in City Hall functions, and a job position is a promise that the city is going to keep those people on permanent employment. I don't feel that this is particularly true with this particular budget. The problem is that in the budget, I don't see income that is continuous to guarantee revenue to pay for new employees, and I'm not even sure we have enough money to actually pay for current employees. As far as I've been led to believe, marijuana is still a federal crime, and the banking industry is heavily regulated and controlling activities dealing with money, laundering money, preventing that money from entering into the banking system. I believe that the income that we receive from the marijuana industry needs to be segregated fully and probably should not be used commingled for unrelated general fund activity. We passed a special tax, and that special tax was marketed for public safety and earmarked to be reduced as marijuana money, cannabis money, income came in. I think there needs to be a discussion of the cannabis income and how it's going to be used for anything other than public safety. In this particular budget, $1 million is listed as income or in permit activity. And the vast majority of that is going to be planning and construction of cannabis-related buildings. And this is not in historic norms for the city in terms of building activity or permit activity. I don't know if that activity is sustainable. To me, it isn't. I think we've got 1 year, 2 years of boom times with it, but I don't know what's going to happen afterwards. And I don't think that we can use 1 year's projections to say we can afford to pay for the next 15 years or 20 years a new employee based on what is happening in building activity this year in California City. In the budget, there is a one-time income from the sale of a cell phone tower. Well, that's not going to happen a second time. That money can't be counted on for paying for employees in the future. The Airport Enterprise Fund in the budget is projected to lose $230,000 in 18-19. Enterprise funds are insured by the general fund. So if the airport loses money, the general fund is supposed to pick it up and pay it to make the enterprise fund whole at the end of the year, I would think. I think those monies need to be accounted for before we have new hires. Getting ahead of myself here. Tierra del Sol is projected to lose somewhere between $700,000 and $980,000 in 18-19. Again, this is not shown in the balance sheet or the revenue expenditure sheets in the budget. Whether the Tierra del Sol is an enterprise fund or not, the general fund is responsible for those losses. Tonight's warrant register appears to contain about $108,000 in legal fees. The budget for the attorney is set at $350,000, and in 1 month we hit $108,000. I think that we're going to hit more than $350,000. Take out one-time income, take out marijuana income, add in Tierra del Sol and airport losses, the budget does not look balanced. Transfers in and transfers out are not clear between departments to the general fund to enterprise funds. They're not there where I can see them. And again, where is the revenue to guarantee new positions? It's just not clear to me in this budget. I'm asking to freeze new positions created in the 18-19 budget. Positions created in prior budgets are not subject to the proposed freeze, and that would be police, fire, water department. Additionally, I would like to reconsider as a policy matter new positions created in the 18-19 budget for police and fire as well. It seems that this needs to be reconsidered after the readjustment to competitive wages are factored in, whether we need the size or the quality of positions in those departments. I had hoped that this would be done at the mid-year budget review. I think the budget needs reworking to help us reassess what we can accomplish with the monies we have. And that is the basis of asking that we freeze new hires that were proposed in 18-19.
That being said, we'll bring it up here first and then to the public? The public first? Okay, then we'll bring it up, and we'll open it up to the public. Before you come up, ladies and gentlemen, please make sure that your emotions are in check. we're discussing. And this is a hot topic and everybody knows it. So just keep your emotions in check. Thank you. He's out of state.
I'm here. Public testimony. Do we have anyone who wants to speak on this item for us?
Keith Middleton, I'm the city treasurer. I've been working with finance for 4 years, and I'm elected for 4 more. I've seen finance with one person for 4 years, and everything that the council's been asking for has been coming to them up to 18 months late. Budgets have not been as thoroughly reviewed as they could have been. Most of that's because we had one finance person in a city of 15,000 people. We needed 3, and we just let go of 1, so now we only have 2. We've needed people in planning for 2.5 years when we started cannabis procedures. We need people in building department when we started cannabis procedures. Much of that was delayed because of lack of people. When we had our one finance person, when he got sick, we had no finance people. You have to have a backup for finance. Finance is the city. I mean, public safety, yes, we have to have public safety. But the people that manage the money that public safety has, that Parks and Rec has, that planning has, that public works has, is finance. And you're talking about hiring freezes in critical positions, even though they aren't moving parts or out there on the street where you can watch them. I think you need to consider very, very closely what you're talking when you say freezes, because freezes affect you in a very odd way when somebody isn't there to do the job, and then you're complaining because the job's not done. I've had my say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Catherine Efford, California City. Actually, Efford Floyd. I should clarify that. I would encourage the council as a group or Dr. Lucinovich to contact and speak with the state of Washington or Colorado and find out how they are dealing with the cannabis money that is coming into the city and into the different cities and into the state. Now, I understand that credit unions will receive a deposit or take deposits from the cannabis industry. Now, I'm not sure if a federal credit union would be able to do that. I know that there are school credit unions in California. They take cannabis money, and interesting, isn't it? I was approached the other day and asked if I would like to invest in a credit union in California City. And I just heard a heck yeah back there, because they do need a place to deposit their money. They do need a place to and pay their bills through. So I think it's important for everybody in our city that's in government, particularly the council, to have a discussion with the people that are right now dealing with that issue. When you say it is federally illegal, I agree, doctor, no question. However, there is an issue, and there is a bill that's headed to the floor right now by a Democrat and is supported by both sides in the House to legalize cannabis nationwide. Canada legalized it, and we're sitting out here with this funky law, basically. So I don't think it's not going to pass. I think the president will sign it, because when he was running, he was asked that question. If a bill was brought to you to legalize cannabis throughout the States, the United States. Would you sign it? And he said, absolutely. I have seen what is happening. Cannabis is no different than alcohol. The alcohol industry is so controlled, and of course they've had a lot of years up on the state and federal level in collecting taxes and controlling the flow of liquor. You still can buy moonshine if you hit Kentucky or West Virginia, but they don't like it when you do that. So the important thing is to be educated. Find out from the other states how they're dealing with that money. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
You're on. We heard it.
Let's try that.
There you go.
Good evening again. DJ Big, member Nick Lasinovich, thank you for your caution. Thank you for having a conversation and discussion about being cautious with long-term debts. As personnel, we don't have a verifiable source of income for many of our departments other than a parcel tax. It is an unreliable source of income. It's a declining source of income when it comes to the units, the number of people that are actually paying, and it's only increasing because we're doubling down on the amount. So the caution is noted. What I'd like to do is bring a little bit what Catherine Efford Lloyd said is education. I think we as a community and particularly our civic leaders can do a better job in understanding the data, understanding the math. And so I'll make a couple of comments to you about your notes. I'd like to know what you've looked at with respect to the banking industry. I'd like to know where your data is so that we can better understand your concern about our businesses handling banking here. Show us some of those studies. For example, you talk about in your notes the promise of a job position with the city should be considered permanent. Is that fact? Is that absolute? Some would say it is. But yet for a period of years, the city has continued down this path of hiring, not having any other source of revenue than a parcel tax. It's the history of the city. Here we are in an opportunity today to have some economic expansion and to better plan for the future. But what came first, the chicken or the egg? We've got to have a way to transform the city from where we were in the past to where we're going to be in the future. And the way to do that, I believe, is through strategic planning. And so rather than start, stop, freeze, go, stop, jump, run, maybe what we ought to do is really dedicate ourselves to looking at the data that you're concerned about, exercising the caution that you're concerned about right now today, but then begin to do our 5-year strategic plan. Make our mid-year adjustments as necessary based upon a 5-year strategic plan to implement the cannabis industry here in California City. With your permission, I'll share with you my notes on the subject matter. My time is up. Good evening. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Christy. This thing is being weird. Christy Munn again.
A little bit.
Dr. Nick, as I said earlier, I don't know you. And I did not vote for you because when I spoke to many people in this town, they said you were Dr. No. That you voted no on just about everything on the 16 years you were on council. So, with that in mind, I just believe that we cannot continue to do the same thing we've done for the last 30 years in this town and expect a different outcome. If we do not expand and move this city forward, we are going to die, because that property tax that I and many other people in this town fought really hard to make sure it got passed is going to go away, and this town will cease to exist. We also have never had a industry willing to come to this town and invest in our town. They are building from the ground up because we have no infrastructure. And if this business does not work, they may go away, but that infrastructure will be here for future businesses to try and come and create an industry. So I believe we cannot move forward unless we do hire people. We have many people in this town doing 2 and 3 jobs because we have not hired or not had the money to hire people for the last couple of years. And my main thing, 2.5 years I've been coming here and I've been talking about this industry. We need to move as fast as we can. I wanted to see us move on it before Proposition 64 passed, but that didn't happen. But we have to move forward. We cannot put, as DJ said, stop, go. We are putting out a bad sign to these businesses that this city doesn't know what it's doing. So we need to move forward. We cannot freeze in employment. And any job I've ever gone to, I only had one. I worked for the same company for 33 years. But when I went to that job, I expected to stay there. But that doesn't happen now. People don't do that anymore. They don't invest in their job for 30 years. They move around. So anybody you hire, I don't think they think of it as a permanent job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeannie O'Laughlin, California City. Some of you may remember that I was finance director here at one time during the whole cannabis when we were starting that up. So one of the big issues was the banking issue. And I talked to the bank. Also, the consultant that we have right now is actually a specialist in anti-money laundering. And he went and talked to the banks with me. And the banks are not taking cannabis money. The banks are taking money from the city. So as far as they're concerned, it's property tax. They know that we have passed an ordinance. And I think they may probably want to keep an eye on it to see if at some point in time we bring in more in cannabis taxes than property taxes. But I don't see that happening in the very near future. But that's the position right now of the banks, is that they're taking money from the city. And this is one of the small functions of the city. Also, if you look on FinCEN, which is the Financial Crimes, Economic Crimes Enforcement, there are a number of banks, and the numbers are increasing, that do deal with cannabis businesses. And we're all very hopeful. The state is trying to work on this issue as well, because I know I have a dispensary that I manage in LA, and I have to make an appointment 3 weeks in advance to be able to take cash payments in for our sales tax, because they have to have the CHP there. So they don't like it any more than the rest of us, so they're working on this as well. Thank you.
Thank you. No, just thank you.
Can I just briefly?
Yes.
I realize I'm not talking about eliminating the industry. I don't hear me. I don't. Okay. Did you turn me? Oh, good. Thank you.
We turned you off.
That's good. I'm glad. I'm not talking about eliminating the industry. I'm just worried that when we have a lot of money coming in 1 year with no history behind it, then maybe we should be using that money to pay for the cost of those services inside the city. So it should be paying for the planners and the inspections, whatever has to be done for the industry. But I'm not sure that I want to use it for paying for new hires. That's all. I'm concerned that no one's talking about is losses between the airport and Tierra del Sol can be over $1 million. There's a $500,000 or $700,000 deficit surplus in the budget, not considering those two losses. So I'm sorry, it just doesn't pencil for me.
Oh, yeah,
Now,
I was only addressing the banking issue. That's
and
all I was addressing.
I'm thinking that's going to be fixed,
Yeah.
to be honest with you. I'm not concerned about that. I'm just saying that right now, as we're getting big money with no sustainability behind it, that we use it to make sure the industry is cared for. We're talking about creating job positions, regulating the industry when it comes into town. Well, why aren't we earmarking this money for that. I think those are the direct needs that the city's going to have now, once these businesses are up and operating, and we're not setting aside money for those. Why isn't that in the budget?
So
that is the money to fund it, too.
one of the other things you might want to consider doing is I get a weekly update from the BCC on new licenses, and I've noticed that there's less than 10 distribution licenses in California City, yet I know there were a lot more than that were applied for. So maybe a little bit of background work would help. Maybe staff could look into, and Denise might actually know that because I think she had to approve all the licenses, so she might know, you know, how many cultivation permits went through the state for here, how many manufacturing, and maybe that would help give us a better sense of what the industry actually is. Because even though we had, you know, over 300 applications when I was here, you know, not all of them have moved forward. And you're right, we need to make sure that we're basing it on realistic numbers and not pie in the sky. The other thing is for the business taxes and for the application fees, those are specific. They can only be used for certain things. They can only be used for cannabis. And when we developed, and I don't know what the latest one was, but with our original application fee, the $7,400, whatever, you know, we had to list what people were actually involved in that process, how much time, and then it was charged accordingly.
Thank you.
What's the time frame you're talking about for this hiring freeze? Because the way you worded it was 18-19 budget that ends in June 30th, and then we go to the 19-20 budget. You're just talking till June? Hiring freeze till June? Is that what you're talking about?
I'm talking about having a mid-year budget review and trying to ice in these numbers about the airport, Tierra
Yeah.
del Sol.
But in terms of the hiring freeze.
If the mid-year budget comes out fine and we have the revenues, and I'd end the freeze then. Well, the mid-year budget review can be any time at the end of this month.
Yeah, because you've got to have the 19-20 budget ready by June 30th, so that's the next one. And when you worded it, you said 18-19.
Well, I don't want to, I don't, if the city has open positions.
You just want to freeze it till June, right?
I want to, the open positions from previous years.
Yeah.
The police department up to 19 officers.
Okay.
The fire department 4 men per shift. Fill those positions. Those are previous years'
Right.
manning requirements. New positions, one position to the fire department.
But that
What is that? 16 positions to the police department, and these 9 positions in City Hall. Freeze them subject to this.
Until what date?
Until the mid-year budget review shows that we have the revenue to pay for them.
Okay, and your mid-year budget review is?
End of the month, beginning of February.
Okay. As you go towards the 19-20 budget, right?
The mid-year will not be until about March, because they've got to, this is end-of-year closeout.
Right.
And they'll have to consolidate everything in February. So am I correct? So we'd be looking around March.
Okay.
The first part of March for.
So that's even, just a couple months, 2 or 3 months is really what
That's
you're
right.
talking about? So really what we're talking about is a hiring freeze for about 3 months? Is that really what we're talking about? Okay.
I'm hoping that's the case.
Okay. Hopefully that'll translate and cut through so we can just go right on and vote on this thing?
Does it call for a vote?
And this is, we don't know if this never stated, it says
There's
for
no action.
discussion, it doesn't say action. So it's being discussed and direct staff.
Well, I have a couple of things to say on this.
Can you hang on for a second, Gene?
I can.
We got a
I sure
couple
can.
more people stepping up.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
So the way that I understand it, Dr. Nick, is that you're just simply advocating that the city live within its means. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, now looking at the cannabis industry over the long haul, over the projected future, need but look at Marlboro. They have just put over $1 billion in the cannabis industry in Canada. Canada's really conservative too. And they're not going to put that kind of money into something that's not going to be sustainable. And the same thing that's happened in 26 other states. They are there's some form of legalization, whether it's recreational or whether it's medicinal. It's there for the long haul. So, on the short range, yes, take a hard, close look at the economic future and the projected revenue and expenses for the mid-year, and then go forward from there. Not just a blanket forever freeze until things stabilize, but take a look at the periodic budget reviews. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anybody else? Any other public? Okay, bringing it back up. I want nobody. Go ahead, Gene.
Okay. One thing in addition to what Dr. Nick asked for, I would also like to see a freeze on consultants. We really have to look at money and how we grow. Previously, in years past, our population of the city has not grown for about 4 years, and we had a smaller group of city people working for the city getting the job done before. And what we've done now is we've moved people around. There are people in different positions, but we've moved them around. So I agree with Dr. Nick. I would like to see a freeze on, fulfilling positions that we had in the prior to 18-19 budget, filling those to the limits that we said, and also freezing consultants. Like a pet peeve of mine is the finance department. We have a finance director and an accountant, yet we bring somebody in and we're paying that consultant $6,000 a week or something like that. And so what I would like to see is if we have a fully qualified finance director and a fully qualified accountant, we don't need this consultant. So freeze the consultant also. We have to be good stewards of the city's money. Maybe we can have a budget subcommittee. That's another idea. Or another thing that Dr. O brought up, Dr. O'Loughlin, is in the past when we were using the consultants that we had, we knew exactly what we were charging cannabis businesses when they came in and for their licenses. Now we don't have that detailed amount. I asked Craig Platt for that detailed amount, and I never got it. I would like to see a totally detailed amount, who we're paying to be on these committees to review everything, and an hourly wage on what we're paying them and the amount of time that it takes to pay them, like we had before. Not like we have now, but like we had before when Dr. O'Loughlin was here. It was very detailed, and when the city manager was Tom Wheel, it was very detailed report on what we were spending on that. So I'd like to see that again. But again, Dr. Nick, I agree with you. I think that it should be a freeze until we get the midterm review and find out where everything is going, because we are building an empire that we cannot support, and we have to think about supporting CalPERS and everything else, and we're building a budget that we cannot support. And I would hate to see us bring a Measure D before our voters, because I guarantee you they will not vote for a Measure D. We have promised them that this cannabis business would get up and established, and that it would require they wouldn't have to pay $182.50 or $182.72, which we charge them. And we also said that as things got better, we would go down, but it does not look like it's going to go down as long as we keep adding people and increasing our liabilities and future liabilities. It will never go down. Thank you.
Waiting for a motion?
No, I'm going to speak. I also agree with Dr. Nick in regards to this.
but also consultants. When we froze it the last time, council said if you desperately need staff or a person to fill a position, come to us and get it approved instead of just hiring. So I feel we should proceed with the hiring freeze.
Hold it, we got to get.
Frankly, I'm baffled. A year ago, November, you hired me to come in and try and get your city on track and accomplish some things that need to be done. The cannabis industry was one of those elements. It was identified in that process before I got here that it was going to be necessary to hire people to bring that industry into fruition. But then every step along the way, when we have tried to bring people on to deal with that, the council has rejected it. And so what we are accomplishing right now, which I think is rather miraculous, is that we actually have some businesses permitted and licensed and in the final phases of getting under production, and we have hired not one person to focus on cannabis. Yet it's a whole new thing. And we hear constant criticism from council members that we are not hiring qualified people. We have the insulting comment made by Councilman Stump that our finance director and accountant are unqualified. That kind of a discussion in a council meeting is totally inappropriate. I can't imagine why all of the rest of you members of the council are not admonishing him for even saying such a thing. It's a personnel matter that needs to be handled in personnel matters. But yet we've lost that civility entirely. We now rake city employees over the coals in council meetings rather than working through the normal process. And no recognition of the fact of what's been done with the resources, just finger pointing. We need to find solutions, but don't spend any money. We need to do a better job of management and of what goes on, but don't hire any people. We complain because we don't have a budget, or we bring to the council last May the budget that I was required by law to bring you, which was a balanced budget based upon the revenue that would be available to the city under the taxation, and you threw it back in my face because it was going to require eliminating positions. And so we went ahead and we rolled the dice, and the citizens voted to approve that, and we went forward, luckily. And yet now we then tried to get a budget together, and there hasn't been, it's just been pulling teeth to even get a budget that was finally adopted. And so I am very confused. What is it you want? Do we want to encourage this industry to come to our community, to invest millions of dollars in the community, or don't we? We cannot do it with the staff that we have right now. You want to do a mid-year budget review? That's great. That stops everything else that we've got in process right now so that we can get ready for a mid-year budget review. That's your option. It's your council, your city. You make those decisions. If you say a hiring freeze, it goes into place. If you tell us to stop hiring consultants to come in and help us get through the completion of our financial statements, we'll stop that, and then you won't get your financial statements. And so it's just, you've got to spend money to make things happen. To think that this community was going to invest in the cannabis industry and it wasn't going to cost anything, or we weren't going to take a risk in hiring people or purchasing equipment or doing the myriad of things before the money was actually in hand, flies in the face of reality. Every business that progresses invests in what they think is going to happen in the future. They don't wait until they got the money in hand and then do it, because if they did, no business would ever succeed. So just tell us what you want. If you want us to stop hiring, we can do that. and we will do our best to try and bring to you the things that you say you want.
You know, and yet, Bob, you just said that if you don't have a consultant, we're not going to give you your financials. Before you were here, we never needed consultants to get our financials. When we just got our financials, okay, budget line actual expenses from July to November that already exceed the 2018-29 budget estimates, and the budget lines that are not in the 2018-29 budget, 131 budget lines totaling $1.4 million. How can you expect this council to approve when the budget's not adding up?
So did you get the email that told you that that when the December report came in, that the budget would be loaded into that and then you would see those numbers?
No, I did not.
Instead, you had somebody do 144 calculations on line items instead of waiting 2 more weeks until you had the report that loaded all of that and answered every one of those questions.
Well, you know, if you would give it to all the council members and not exclude.
We did.
You did. Well, did not see it anywhere.
Which email, I'm sorry, but which email, Councilman Paris, would be the good email that you get? Because I have 3 separate ones. So if you could please identify the one email that we can count on that you get everything that you need to get, that would be greatly appreciated.
I will do that. You know, but it's over and over again, you know, we cannot trace your interfund transfers, where the money's going, where it's coming from. You know, I feel that the budget you gave us was highly inadequate. And until we are able to see what the budget really is, you know, why should we continue allowing you to just spend millions of dollars?
I believe and I know it's part of my job to be a steward.
Get close to the mic and make sure you're on. There you
A
go.
steward of all of our funds. I do believe that we need to put some money forth in order to make some money. I do believe that we need to make a presentation of a coherent, organized city hall, city council. When people come and they're looking to invest their money here, millions of dollars here, we need to be able to present to them a face that says, I know what I'm doing. We need to have enough staff to cover that. I think it's insulting to Diego to insinuate that he can't do his job. I have to say that my interactions with Diego, and he can confirm, I have asked for explanation or further detail. He's given that to me readily. So if there are questions, I think everyone here is willing to answer anything that you have or sit down with you for any amount of time that you may have those questions. I think that we need to have someone in place behind Ms. Hilliker who can focus on the cannabis industry, who can focus on those people coming to the window and filling out the applications and the process from A to Z. And I've heard it said many times, well, if these people want to come here and they're in the cannabis industry, they should know what they're doing. It's a new industry. Not everyone knows what we're doing. The state of California is still figuring it out. They left Assembly bill resolutions hanging into 2019 and possibly 20. If we want them here, I think that we need to make a concerted effort to show them that we do want them here, and that if they need a little hand-holding along the way, then that's what we're willing to do. There needs to be some give and take on either side. So some of the police and fire, they gave us our budget. They know what their budget constraints are. They know what money they can spend and what they can't. And they know that if it comes down to new vehicles versus personnel, they're the only ones who can make those decisions. So I think to take that, okay, we approved it all, and now we're going to yank it all away, they're getting the Measure C money that they're operating on.
For people in other places, the Parks Department, I have great ideas to move the city forward with some things in the Parks Department. We need people there. We need people who can handle the work, because it's one thing to say, please come to our city, please open a business, start a business, run a business. But it's another thing when we don't have anyone there to help or guide or be the support that they really need. So in my opinion, a hiring freeze would be very detrimental to the idea that I thought we had all formed of moving forward, and this was really going to be the year that we were going to move forward. So it's my opinion.
Prior council that was seated handled more issues than the other councils before it. In addition, the council addressed issues that should have been addressed tens of years ago, and unlike prior councils, that can was kicked down the road. That council met, the council last seated met things head on. When dealing with special tax, the public was advised that if the special tax did not pass, there would be cuts across the board in all departments, although a lot of the cuts did not have to occur because employees left their jobs here in the city and went to other places for employment. What the current council is trying to do is to get the employment level back up to where it was just prior to the special tax failing. We've lost a lot of ground. In the special tax election, the people who voted, and that was the people living in this community, 80.22% said yes, do it. What the prior council told everybody was city employees need to be paid more money. Currently, everyone is finding this to be a true statement. Why, you ask, is very simple. This city must have the ability to compete with other cities and counties for employees. There must be a draw to keep and get employees here to work for the city, and there is none. Our employees are not paid that well. And if you think they are, then ask yourself this one question. Where is the line of people applying to work here? As far as the future income, it has already started to come in. The city got its first cannabis taxes in the amount of $16,000 plus dollars. That would be equivalent to approximately $1,650,000 in retail sales. It's coming in, folks. Hang on, boys and girls, I got 5 pages. We talk about the marijuana. The cannabis, yes, is still a federal crime. Cannabis is still a Schedule I drug by federal law. However, the federal government is instructing the United States Attorney General not to go after the people who are trying to do this industry correctly, but to go after the people who are doing it not correctly. The people who are still trying to do it secretively and who do not follow the rules. In addition, California Supreme Court just ruled that cities and counties who do not allow cannabis to be grown, manufactured, etc., within their boundaries cannot stop dispensaries, and these are mobile, from coming into their area and making deliveries to people who live in those cities and counties. So with the 10 mobile dispensary permits that the city is going to issue, whether they sell the product in Kern County, LA County, San Bernardino County, Inyo County, and for that matter, any county in the state, this city will be getting the tax revenue from it. When dealing with the banks, the current federal government who oversees the banks that are FDIC insured says they're not supposed to be taking the money. And this is still going on, and there's still discussions going on. However, there are approximately 500 banks that are privately owned in the state of California, and they are taking the money. In reference to special tax that was marked for public safety, That would be reduced when cannabis taxes start to come in. There was a discussion held by the prior council in which it was stated that the public safety would have first crack at the money since they are covered by the special tax. Thus, as the special tax is reduced, cannabis tax would go into the general fund and public safety would be paid out of the general fund and no longer with the special tax. That's our number one goal, to get rid of it. To get rid of that special tax. Dealing with the permit activity, when it was talked about historical numbers, just to let everybody know that this is not a passing fancy. With properties purchased and buildings are now going up, there has been millions upon millions of dollars invested. Additionally, a gentleman came into California City. He landed his private jet at the airport. And I do not have his name off the top of my head right now, but I do have it at home. This gentleman's net worth is approximately $110 million. He is very interested in talking with someone of the some of the people in the cannabis industry, and he is interested in either starting or joining or something with cannabis. What is uncertain, and that is not even the correct word, what is scary, this city has never seen this type of money come into play in our community, ever. When you talk about the tower, yes, and everybody knows that it was a one-time sale, but it does need to go into this budget because that's when the revenue occurred. If you remove that revenue, then your budget won't be balanced. The cannabis, same thing. It needs to go in there. When we talk about putting a freeze on positions, exactly what departments are we talking about? And are those departments general fund? Are they enterprise fund? Are they special tax fund? What funds are they and what positions are they? Yes, you're correct. If we were to put a freeze on PD and fire, that is a direct violation of trust to the voters who've said, do it. In reference to Tierra del Sol. Tierra del Sol drug out for 4 years before this city got Tierra del Sol back in control. During that time, from 97 to June of last year, the city did not collect. The one wave off they did was for a water debt. They were not paid. A total of $3,527,000, folks. And the course was going downhill then. So it's going to take time. We have already pulled people out of Public Works in the water department to take care of Tierra del Sol. We have pulled people out of Parks and Rec to help cover Tierra del Sol. And the Par 3 course is still not up because we don't have the personnel. The one thing we're looking at for TDS is to have a company, a golf course company, come in and take it over. They can do the work on it. And that would benefit this city drastically. That is, Tierra del Sol is a drawing feature for this community. In reference to the $108,000 in legal fees, that was over a couple months, and that dealt with more than just the city attorney's office. Litigation is a way of life. You check with any city, and they are going to be astronomical. That is just the way it is in this country, in this state especially. To ask for a freeze right now, I cannot agree with at all. That is a step backwards. In response to reevaluate and reconsider a policy matter, again, in the 18-19 budget for police or fire, that's a direct violation of voter trust. If you recall, the voters again approved the special tax with yes registered at 18.22%. The voters wanted their police department, which includes police officers, animal control, dispatch, the records, at full complement. In addition, the voters also wanted the fire department and code enforcement at full complement. As far as a mid-year budget review, this would not happen until well after February. Again, we have closeout. January takes care of closeout. Then you have to consolidate in February. So the earliest you could possibly do it would be March. April, May, June. This current budget was hammered out and had never been done this way before, ever in the city's history. Why? Because when the CM said, here's your budget, and we're going to be laying people off, and we all up here said, oh, no, you're not. We're not going to allow it. So that happens. So now you have a partial budget from July 31st to November. And then after that, the budget gets approved at the end of November to start going into December and through June. The thinking that that has been displayed has been the same type of thinking that has occurred for the last in this city for the last 30 years. It is the same thinking, the same type of thinking that has failed to move this city forward. It is time to get out of the 1980s and the uncertainties and move into the 21st century. Life doesn't guarantee anything, and we as a community, we as a city, need to move forward. There cannot be status quo, we lose ground. There cannot be nickel-diming things. Why, you ask? The city loses ground. I find it amazing that this city in the past would not do it right the first time because of money, but would redo it over 2 or 3 times until it was done right. This does not make any sense to me. I think, bottom line, that if I can change some of my thinking dealing with cannabis, other people on this council can change their minds when dealing with city funds, employees, and trusting city staff. Thank you. I cannot agree with doing a freeze for any reason, not for a 6-month period, not for a 2-week period. It doesn't make any sense. We need to move forward. This city has been status quo for so long, it doesn't know. It's like being institutionalized from sitting in a prison. Let's move to the 21st century and get things done. That's what we're here to do. Second call, please.
Keith Middleton, City Treasurer. It just seems to me that it makes sense to do what the midterm budget's supposed to do. See where you're at, and then make decisions then.
Yes.
That's all I have.
Thank you.
Good evening again. Thank you for your comments, Mr. McGuire, as well as Mr. Paris and Mr. Lisenovich and Ms. Johnson. I enjoy listening to each of your perspectives. A couple things I'd like to feed back to you and re-edify those things that have been said. Number one, heard Mr. Stockwell say when he was brought on board that sort sort of directed that it would be absolutely necessary to bring people on board to help us improve upon the city services. I believe I've often heard us say that we need staff, or we need in-house engineering, planning, and certainly more public safety. What we can do is look at the bright side of things. We can fast-track permitting. That's a choice we can make. And by fast-tracking permitting, you're going to solve the problem. Let's look at the bright things. We're building a plane while we're flying it with cannabis. And so, as Stockwell said, it's been rather miraculous. We can certainly edify this community, our leaders, electeds, all of you, for attracting an industry here and putting those millions of dollars into play in our community. They've made choices. They could have gone anywhere, but they've come here. Let's serve that industry by fast-tracking our permitting processes and solve the problem of our finances. This herky-jerky motion that we've seen over a period of years here, 5 permits, maybe not, 15 permits, maybe not, that's the problem. That is the problem. It was ill-conceived in the beginning. Those artificial deadlines hurt us. When many of us in the community said, let's open this up early, but it took council members saying, no, 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 caution, caution, caution.
Mayor,
That's the problem. Fast track the engineering, exercise caution. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Remember, this is 2 minutes, folks.
Catherine Efford again. I'd like to remind you that when someone comes in and builds, whether it's a little tiny taco stand, a beauty shop, or a 5,000 square foot cannabis grow, there are going to be support industries that have to support those people. We are not going to go stagnant on construction. I don't know if anybody's taken a look around town lately, but we don't have the vacant homes that we had a few years ago. We have people constantly calling. I'm in the real estate business, trying to get out, trying to retire, but I get 2 to 5 calls a week looking for a place to rent or possibly something to buy, and I shuttle them off to the people I know that will service them. We are going to have to build more homes. You can't put 25 employees or 2,500 employees into this town and expect them to live someplace else. Remember, our building department, planning department, but our building department needs employees. We are a disgrace, my friends. You bring in a plan, and you can't get that approved or can't get it off of somebody's desk for 3 to 5 weeks. That's insane. Because somebody goes on vacation, that's even more insane. We need the employees in this town. We need somebody at that counter in California City, in City Hall, that can speak to people with some intelligence and some time frames available to them in writing that they can give to people. Thank you.
Allison, kind of bootstrapping on DJ and Catherine. There's a whole adage, you can't go from an empty wagon. That's kind of sums it up on the necessity for servicing potential businesses that want to come in. We have to have somebody that's knowledgeable and has a history of success that can be able to communicate effectively with these people and determine their needs, and we need to be able to satisfy those needs. As far as the financial, mid-year audits, that's best practices, plain and simple. And this council needs to recall that the Kern County Grand Jury recommended a forensic audit be done, and Mr. Stockwell disagreed. But I think that the grand jury should prevail. Thank you.
Anybody else? So, city attorney? What are we looking at motion-wise? Or is it just?
So right now, there's no motion on the table. There's an item on the agenda for discussion. There's been discussion. It's up to the council as to whether or not they want to take action on that item or table it.
I'd like to table it until March when we do the mid-year review. I'd make that motion. It's not going to do any good to freeze anything. It's not. It's a too short of time frame. When we can go at mid-year budget, look what we've got, see what's there, and make determinations. That seems like the appropriate choice. So I'll make that budget or make that motion that we table this until March when we do mid-year, and then we can make our determination then. That's my motion.
Second to that motion?
Okay, there's a first and a second. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilmember Johnson? Yes. Lisenovich?
No.
Paris?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Stump?
I say no, and I have a motion after this one. I say no.
Mayor McGuire?
Yes.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Just for clarity, the
I
motion,
have a
the motion failed.
Hold it.
Motion is,
Hang on real quick.
Motion failed.
Okay. Go ahead.
the motion is to freeze all hiring, as Dr. Nick pointed out, but also freeze all consultants, and until we do a mid-year, and at that time we'll make a determination, but freeze everything, as Dr. Nick has stated, hiring except for police and fire, which were in the 17-18 budget, which would bring us up to 19 and equivalent amount of fire, and freeze consultants. That's my motion.
And is there a time frame on this?
It was until, we're in January now, so it would be until June, end of June.
Can you amend it to be to the completion of mid-year review?
Yes, okay, I'll amend it till the completion of mid-year review.
Okay, so
I have one more amendment. Can we amend it also to say that if the city desperately needs an individual to be hired, that it's brought to council?
Yes, okay, those two amendments. That's my motion.
okay.
I'll second it.
And so let me get this right for the time frame.
I make a comment really quick because you're talking the 17, 18, or 18 original budget, then I shut down the golf course and I send everybody back to where they go but those were not included in the original budget. So
Tierra del Sol's not in the 18-19 budget.
so that means I pull those people out, and
It would
isn't.
freeze,
It's not in the budget. I mean,
individuals where
if
they
you're
are
telling us
now.
that we have to follow the budget, then that's not in there now. It's an
But we're not gonna
$800,000
lay
loss.
anybody
That's
off,
what it is
so
now.
it would be,
Already hired, are they not?
to the levels that were in the 18,
No, we
17,
haven't fully
18
staffed
budget.
Hang on for a second, Gene.
those positions, so some of those are still water, so I would move everybody back to their departments and we will cease.
You know, now you're threatening council.
No, what I'm saying is those were not included in that
Mr.
budget.
The council is going to take its action, and we'll deal with it as directed by the council.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second.
So can we, I'm going to repeat the motion. Freeze all hiring and consultants until the completion of the mid-year budget. If the city needs any individual to be hired, then they come to council for approval. Is that correct?
We've already asked for engineering. Are you stopping that?
Did that cover everything?
That cover all the
Did that cover everything? Dr. Nick?
We've already asked for engineering. What are we doing with that?
Okay,
We asked for an engineer, a city engineer.
okay, it's
We're
been,
not freezing it.
yeah, it puts a freeze on it.
We didn't say a freeze on the engineer, but
You-
we said that you could come
you
back
did.
for
You said a hiring freeze.
individuals.
You said a hiring freeze.
Wait,
Yes,
excuse
I
me.
did.
Oh.
Legally speaking, I'm concerned there. If we don't have we have to have a city engineer legally. Okay, so I just want to make sure that's clear. I'm not sure. That's required.
These people are going to freak out, man.
Okay, so we've got a motion and we've got a second. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilmember Johnson,
An emphatic no.
Lisenovich,
No.
Harris,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Stump,
Yes.
Mayor McGuire.
No.
Motion failed.
Motion failed.
Okay, so, pardon? We're on to the next item. Till we can get something there. Okay,
Just for clarity, no action was taken.
no action, but we can bring that up. Okay, closed session, or correction on that, it's,
We're going to do successor agency
yeah,
first, please.
successor agency, I gotta get to my page. Let me get to the page. I gotta find it. I've got, Nick, yeah, if I find it, I'm missing a page, so, oh, thank you, sir. New business one, successor agency, recognized obligation payment schedule, ROPS 1920, July 1, 2019 to June 30th, 2020. Executive Director Stockwell.
See, board members. This is a resolution required by the state regulations that disbanded redevelopment agencies, and the successor agency took its place. The operation of the successor agency has been transferred to the county, and so this resolution simply states the redevelopment approved and recognized obligation payment schedule July 1, 2019 to 20 as a recommendation to the county board. So we just recommend adoption of the resolution and well, there's only a resolution, and that would go forward as proposed.
Okay, is there any questions from council dealing with the ROPS? Any questions from the public dealing from the ROPS? Make a motion that the resolution of the, pardon? Okay, of the successor agency of the California City Redevelopment Agency approving the recognized obligation payment scheduled for July 1, 2019 to June 30th, 2020 pursuant to the Health and Safety Code section 34117. Is that L or I?
L?
Sure.
Okay. Looked like an L to me, but I wasn't sure. So that's the motion. Is somebody going to make that motion for ROPS? I'll make the motion.
Second.
Approve. Okay, and it's second. Roll call vote, please.
I'm sorry, was it Dr. Nick for the second?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Lisenovich,
Yes.
Paris,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Stump,
Yes.
Mayor McGuire.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Council agenda. This portion of the meeting is reserved for council members to present information, announcements, and items that have come to their attention. The Brown Act precludes council, staff, or public discussion. Short staff responses are appropriate. The council will take no formal action. A council member may request the city clerk to calendar an item for consideration at a future meeting or refer an item to staff. Councilmember Johnson.
I just would like to remind everybody that the California City High School in Saracoso are having an open house Thursday night from 6 to 8. They're giving information on taking the high school students, taking classes and earning more credits. You can, from what I hear, graduate from our high school with the equivalent of an associate's degree in credits at this point. They're also pushing with working for English as a second language, working for people adults and kids looking to earn their GED. I will be there. I have a lot of questions, but I think that it's a great program that they have set up, and if anyone has any questions about it, Thursday night's the night to ask them and to go and participate. I think it's a great thing. That's it. It's going to be at California City High School.
Councilman Lisenovich.
In preparation for new business one, I made a few phone calls to City Hall. I called up one particular number, and the voice message was the person who had that job 3 positions before. The person on the message was replaced by 2 people prior to the new person being on the phone. Made several phone calls to make appointments to speak with people, and left messages. And out of 5 phone calls, I received not one phone call back. I would characterize our phone system at City Hall to be a black hole. Phone calls come in, they don't get answered, and messages on answering machines do not get answered or do not get seen. This is how we do business. I didn't hear anything in the new hires about marijuana industry. The new hire positions that are in the budget are not to support the marijuana industry. The new hires are to supplement current staffing issues inside City Hall, but is not to make a fast track happen to increase our business opportunities in this town. In my office, if the phone goes to message during the day, people can lose their lives over it. That's the lifeblood of every business in this town, except City Hall. That's not the way it's supposed to be. I can't imagine that one person up here thinks that that's the appropriate response of City Hall, to not answer the phone and to not return phone calls. If anything, the city manager should be telling us how quickly people are responding to messages on answering machines, to let us know that everybody that calls to the city is getting their business cared for. That's not happening now. And it hasn't happened forever. You know, I sat on the council, and literally 1 year, I put in the budget $50,000 to train City Hall to answer the phone, just so that they wouldn't have the excuse of not knowing how to answer a phone. And it hasn't changed. It's not the way to do business. Thank you.
Councilman Paris.
Nothing.
Mayor Pro Tem Stump.
We have a time that is clicking ahead, and our marijuana cannabis business is going along, as the mayor pointed out. We made $16,000 or something like that. But we're going to have to come up with, if you add inflation and you add the amount of people that we've added to our business, to our city, we're going to probably have to come up with around $16 million a year to support police and fire when Measure C runs out. And the way we're going now, that is not happening. Is there a fast track for it? I don't see any fast track for it. Again, when I go to City Hall and I see that the forms that we're using are not the correct forms, we really need to make this a priority, because we need to get these businesses going so that we can have alternative means of revenue. Again, our citizens, I do not believe that they will vote for a Measure D. So the staff and us on the council, we need to do whatever we can to fast track this business before all the investors leave California City, so that we can make a large amount of money and not rely on parcel taxes in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. As far as myself go, I agree with Dr. Nick about the phones. We need to get the recordings updated to who the person is there. Also, we need people to be able to answer the phones, especially with the cannabis industry the way it is and stuff. We need to have somebody that can talk to these people, answer their questions, and I know planning does that. I listen to it every day. I listen to them, and it's constant. The phone is constantly blowing up. That I can tell you. I've seen it. But I agree with Dr. Nick on that. The one thing that we need to address, well, we'll address that later. I took a map. This is in the area of Lindbergh and Curtis Place. You've got U-Store City, Animal Control. Someplace over there, somebody is, I don't know if we have a business over there that's doing cannabis. If not, the smell over there is absolutely nauseating. And that, there's nothing coming from Cal Aero. No, because somebody reported Cal Aero, the state came out unannounced, put up all their measuring devices, and nothing was coming out. They're processing. This smells like grow. So I don't know if if somebody's storing cannabis in one of the storage things, but that's got to get addressed. Well, I don't know who is operating out there. I have. Yeah, but I'm getting, people are saying they go over to their storage area, and the smell is absolutely horrendous. So we need to look at it, and if it is a company, get on them and get them to follow compliance with the rules. Also on Columbine between 91st, on 91st, with the intersections of Columbine and Walpole, with the last flood we had out there, there's a lot of potholes. A lot of the road is decaying there. If we can possibly get some filled in and kind of stop the breakdown. Other than that, does anybody have any AB 1234s? Do you? Gene, do you have any 1234s?
No, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, sir. Just attended a couple meetings, one dealing with the prison. It was a very good meeting. Have a meeting coming up Thursday on Edwards Air Force Base. And I have a meeting tomorrow to talk to a couple of people, but other than that, no. Okay. Public comment. Members of the public are welcome to address the city council only on these items on the closed session agenda. Each member of the public will be given 3 minutes to speak. Closed session items for city council. Number 1, pursuant to Cal Government Code 54956.9, parentheses D1, existing litigation, Justin Vincent versus City of California City, California East District Court, number 1:18-CV-00549. CS2, conference with labor negotiator pursuant to Cal Government Code pursuant 54957.1. Negotiations, California City Police Officer Association, California City Miscellaneous Union, and the California City Firefighters Association. CS3, that is going to be check number 104244, and that's dealing with potential litigation. So I'm assuming that that's also going to fall under Cal Government Code 54956.9, parentheses 9, or D, parentheses 1.
P1, correct.
Okay. Any questions in any of those?
Yes, good evening. Closed session 1. With respect to litigation, where do the legal fees come from? Do they come from the parcel tax? With respect to the fire chief, former fire chief? Simple question. Legal fees, with respect to the fire chief, where do they come from? The parcel tax or the general fund?
The general fund.
Okay, next question. With respect to potential litigation, check number 10244, same question. Does the legal fees, if any, potential litigation, does that also come from the general fund or the parcel tax?
The general fund.
Final comment. CS2, with respect to labor negotiations, we've brought testimony, as you know, several times. Your council has addressed the issue with public safety. You scared the hell out of all the voters in California City. Might be better to change your mode of operations. You may want to consider doing something other than just sitting at the table budgeting a bunch of money. You may want to actually talk about the image of the community and build a better morale in these departments. Do that by getting involvement in the community and the community policing model. Give them incentives to buy homes and live in the community. I believe the police chief will tell you it's better to have them living here. They can be better police officers over a period of time. You can talk with him more about that. You can do research on community policing models, and you may find it to be an advantage in effective community policing, and thank you for your time.
Good evening. Good evening again, Al Hudson. On the 10244, the legal fees, is that the 300,000, the possible 300,000 that would come out of the general fund instead of the department?
I'll point that to that direction.
Those are not legal fees.
Is the 300,000 general fund money or special tax money?
General fund.
Thank you. Now, on CS1, does the council have the pleadings on Vincent?
I haven't seen anything.
I have requested them today, but I didn't get any, but I was able to get my hands on them.
If you can give them to Denise, please.
civil rights violation against the city. These have been ongoing. And there needs to be an investigation of these serious allegations of violations of civil rights by the city manager. He should be put on administrative leave or walked out based on the allegations that are in this pleadings. There were far less allegations made against our police chief and a couple of desks than there are against Mr. Stockwell. He's a problem. He's costing we taxpayers untold thousands or millions of dollars. Please study these allegations that are in the first amended complaint for damages and the facts related thereto. They are extremely serious. The city cannot afford the antics and the discrimination that have been imposed on Justin Vincent by the city manager. It's all contained
Mayor.
right here. Excuse me, Madam Clerk.
It's
I was up at handing
it's time,
these
Al.
pleadings
It's
out
time
and
because
such.
we got to move on with this. We're still going to be tied up in this.
Well, I'm just saying my time was cut short when I was handing things out and such. But okay,
Thank
as long
you.
as you guys read everything.
Thank you. Where are we going to handle this at? Here or in this room? Is that okay with everyone? Yeah, because so. Oh, yes.
Well, I
sir.
just had one more quick question. A CS2 question.
Yes.
The $300,000 there. Now, that's worded as settlement on the check register. That's the very specific word that it uses. So I assume that that means a settlement for litigation brought against the city by that individual.
It's a personnel issue.
Well,
Part
it's-
of that, and yes, it says that, but we got to talk to the city attorney, and then we can report on it.
Okay. Do you plan to do that tonight? Will we
Yes.
know whether or not you approve that payment,
Yes.
the settlement,
Yes.
tonight?
Yes.
Okay. One last question. If we do approve that settlement, does that make all of it go away? It's done, that's that, gone, daddy gone.
We won't know until we've talked to him.
So they would have to accept, and that would close that out.
Yeah, because we don't have
Okay. And you're going to do that tonight, right?
Yes, we're going to do all that tonight. Thank you. Thank you, sir. So,
Council members and members of the audience, with regards to litigation with Chief Justin Vincent or anybody else, to make a comment like Al did, and I appreciate what Al did. He's got a copy of the pleadings, and I've seen them, okay? They're public record, folks. Let the court decide who did what and why to whom. When we try people outside of a courthouse, we are making ourselves God. That's a very dangerous place to be. Trust me, I know. Thank you.
okay. All right, we're asking that everybody go ahead and exit this facility. We're going to close the doors and go into closed session. Let's give it. Yes. Because right now we've got a member of the council that's on the phone and have to disconnect.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I can go in the other room. I can just call.
Well, I think we're going to do it. We're going to keep it here and just keep it connected here up on the dais.
Okay.
I think that might be a little bit easier.
Okay. Just don't let it, make sure that it's not broadcasting over.
Oh, yeah,
the
we've
city.
already shut the mics off.